Hello everyone, I am Jyoti Chahal from Department of Zoology, Hindu Girls College, Sonipat. So today I will discuss with you all our previous topic migration in birds part 2. In this part I will discuss with you all about purpose and causes of bird migration, about range and distance of migration, about speed of migration, altitude of migration, regularity in migration, and routes and various guiding mechanisms, about stimulus for bird migration, and about theories of bird migration. So, first we'll talk about purpose of migration. What is the purpose for bird migration? One can be breeding. For breeding, birds can migrate from one place to other. Second purpose is for feeding. And third is in search of suitable climatic conditions. So these are the three main purposes for migration of birds. Then what are the causes of bird migration? First is ripening of gonads. That means when gonads will start functioning properly, then they will make a stimulus for the bird to migrate. And second is instinct, which is inner voice of a bird, inner urge of a bird, which will compel the bird to migrate. Then next is scarcity of food. That means shortening of food resources at a particular habitat. It will force the bird to migrate to another place. And then one can be hostile temperatures. That means unfavorable temperature. Either it can be excessively high or excessively low. So extreme temperatures, hostile temperature. So that can force bird to migrate. And then last is changes in day length. If the day length has been shortening, then it can compel a bird to migrate. So these are some of the causes for migration of birds. So next we'll talk about distance and range of migration. How much distance a bird will cover during migration, or what will be the range of migration for a specific bird. It totally depends on environmental conditions and the nature of the species of bird. So here is this bird. This is Arctic tern. This is the champion for the longest distance in migration, and the scientific name of this bird is Sterna macrura. It nests in treeless Arctic tundra. So this is the region in northern hemisphere, Arctic region, tundra region, and it nests in this region. That means this is the summer home of this bird in northern hemisphere. Now, when winter will commence, when there will be winter season in this Arctic tundra, this bird, it will start migrating. Okay, so it spends summer here. That means time from June to August, it will spend here in Arctic tundra, and it will start its migration towards southern hemisphere up to the Antarctic region. It starts its journey of migration in September, and it will spend 3 months to reach up to southern hemisphere in Antarctic region, September, October, and November. And in December, it will be here in Antarctic region to spend second summer season. That means this bird experiences 2 summers in 1 year. How? Because in southern hemisphere, summers will commence from 1st of December. And there will be autumn season from 1st of March, and winter from 1st of June, and spring from 1st of September. So starting from December up to the end of February, there will be summer season. So bird has already spent 1 summer in the northern hemisphere, and now it will spend another summer season here in southern hemisphere. So this bird, it experiences 2 summers in 1 year. So it will migrate then back after the onset of autumn season. It will migrate back during winter to its nesting space, that is this Arctic tundra, which is its breeding space or nesting space. So it will move back, and now it will take only 1 month time for back migration. That means immigration to its breeding site. So this is all about this Arctic tern. Also, it as you can see, it can migrate up to approximately 17,600 kilometer one way. That means if you calculate two-way distance, it covers approximately 40,000 kilometers per annum. In 1 year, it travels a distance of 40,000 kilometers. So every time it migrates in flocks, that means in groups, and it will return each spring to the very same nest it has used in the previous year. Okay. Some other birds are also there which show long distance migration. Like one is this European white stork. You can see here. They fly south from their summer breeding grounds in Europe. So these are the breeding grounds which are shown here in green color. These are the breeding ground of this European white stork, and this is European region and some Asian portion. So from this European breeding ground, it will migrate towards south during the onset of winter. So it will head to South Africa in savanna to spend its winter there. So you can see the migration range. So these arrows which are shown here in red color and which are dual-headed arrows which shows migration. That means immigration and emigration. Okay, so uh, it will fly south from their breeding ground or nesting ground in August or September, and they will spend their winters in savanna in Africa. Okay, so this bluish portion is winter home of this European white stork, and it covers approximately about 8,000 miles to feeding sites in South Africa during winter. That means the distance from this European nesting site or breeding site to this African feeding site or resting site is approximately 8,000 miles. Okay, so this stork covers one way distance of 8,000 miles. Now, here is another picture of some different bird. This is Himalayan snow partridge, or commonly you can say Himalayan snow cock. And the scientific name is Lerva lerva. And it descends only by a few hundred feet only. It shows altitudinal migration. So it will move downhill on the commencement of onset of winters. So it will move to the base of the hill of the Himalaya, and it will descend only by a few hundred feet only. So it will come down at the hill foot only few hundred feet. Next is speed of migration. Generally, birds fly at a 32 to 80 kilometer per hour speed, but some of the birds, they stop here and there for feeding. So their average speed for migration that can be 40 kilometer per hour. But there are certain birds like swift which can fly approximately up to 200 kilometer per hour. That is very fast speed. And total flying hours can be 6 to 11 hours per day or per night in case of diurnal or nocturnal migratory birds. And if you, there are certain more birds which are marvels of flight or speed, like in a single hop. Single hop means single flight without any stoppage. So that is termed as single hop, single flight. Stork. So this is stork. Stork can fly approximately 200 kilometers in 6 hours without any stoppage. It can cover 200 kilometers in 6 hours of flight. Similarly, plover, that is again a marvel of speed. Plover, this is a common ringed plover. As you can see, a black ring around its neck. So this is common ringed plover. Okay, it can fly approximately up to 880 kilometers in 11 hours without any stoppage. There are certain more birds which shows a non-stop flight, like one is this woodcock, and the scientific name of this woodcock is Scolopex rusticola, and it can cover approximately 2,400 kilometers without any stoppage. So this bird, it has its nesting site in Himalaya, and it can move to its feeding site, that is in South India, Nilgiri Hills. So it can move from North India to South India in a single flight, covering a distance of 2,400 kilometers, and that is a huge distance. And the next is this bird, golden plover. It can also cover 2,400 miles, that means 3,863 kilometers approximate. This golden plover, it also covers this distance, which is more than 3,500 kilometer in a single flight without any stoppage. And it will fly from Alaska to South America, as we have already discussed in the previous lecture. The next is this bird, snipe, that is Capella hardwicki. It can cover a distance of 4,800 kilometer in a single flight. And it can move from Japanese Sea, which is the breeding site in summer, to East Australia and Tasmania, which are the feeding sites during winter. So this is again a huge distance. So these are some of the birds which can cover such a great distance and at a very high speed without any stoppage. Furthermore, it has recently been discovered by a group of ornithologists that swift, it can fly in continuation for about 10 months without touching the ground during its migration. That means it can remain in air for 10 months in continuation, and that is an amazing fact. So this bird is very much capable of long-term flights, and it can remain in air without touching ground or earth for 10 months, and that is a huge time gap. The next is altitude of migration. Some birds, the one which fly over oceans, they fly very close to Earth's surface, ocean surface, that is below 400 meter. Some birds, they fly below 400 meter. Why? Because on ocean, whenever the bird, they will fly over ocean, there will be no halt or no stoppage or no mountain range or anything to halt their journey. So they can fly at a lower distance, at a lower height. Okay, so they will generally fly, the birds which will fly over ocean, they will generally fly below 400 meter height. Some birds, they will fly at a height of 3,000 feet, which is approximately 900 meters. There are certain birds which will fly at a height of 5,000 to 14,000 feet, and specifically during night. And there are some specific examples, like these are some migrating geese which fly over Himalayas at a height of 3,000 to 4,800 meters. So that is a huge height. So they cross Himalayas at such a great height. So they fly very high. And there are certain more birds like this house martin, this painted snipe, and this pintail snipe. They fly at a distance of at a height of 5,100 meter. So that is again a great height. The next is about regularity and accuracy in migration of birds. Birds are very punctual. They migrate and leave. They schedule their migration. They arrive and they leave their particular site or habitat according to the calendar. They choose same site for breeding year after year. And here are two specific examples for this. One is this purple martin. They return to same site on same day each season at their nesting site. And here is European swallow. They return to same locality, even in the same building, in the very same nest every nesting season. Then is routes of migration. Some migratory birds, they follow same routes year after year, and routes of two species, they rarely coincide. Every species has its own route, different route. Some birds, they fly over in wide migratory lanes. That means they will be scattered during their migration and they will form a wide lane, while some will fly in narrow lanes like sandpiper. So here is sandpiper. It will fly in a narrow lane, and they will generally fly along the coastline for feeding so that they can get their food. Some birds, they change their routine while returning. That means they follow one route when they are emigrating, and they will follow another route when they are immigrating. So that will form a loop-like structure, as we have already discussed loop migration. So such birds, they will follow different routes when they are returning to their nesting site. Then is duration of migration. Some aquatic birds, they complete their migratory route in a very short time, while there are certain more other birds which will migrate with leisure, stopping here and there for feeding. Okay, so they will take more time. Like there is one example of warbler. So this is warbler, and it will take 2 month time for migrating from Central America, which is the winter home of this bird, to Canada. Okay, so here is America. So from this region to this region, which is shown here in green color, that is Canada, this finch, this warbler, it will migrate very short distance, but it will still take 2 month time because it migrate with leisure, spending plenty of time here and there for feeding, stopping after every few kilometers. So that will take more time. So it depends upon the bird species how much time it will take during migration. The next is a stimulus for bird migration. What causes birds to have an urge for migration? So what is the stimulus? The urge to migrate at appropriate season, it is resulted from both external as well as internal stimulus. External stimulus is variation in day length, generally that is increase in day length, and internal stimulus is a favorable energy balance and physiological state of gonads. Favorable energy balance means there will be more energy which is produced than that is required. So this extra energy, it will activate the gonads to do some physiological activity, and now these gonads will produce hormones which will make the bird to have an urge for migration. How this will happen? So in March, that means during the onset of summers, there will be increase in day length, and because of increase in day length there will be increase in light amount, and that will cause temperature to rise higher, as it generally happens in summers. So there will be higher temperature. Now this increase in daylight, it is detected by photoreceptors which are present in the eyes of birds, and also in the pineal body. Pineal body is a structure of epiphyseal apparatus which is present in the brain, and that is having an imperfect lens like structure which can detect light. Okay, so now that will cause higher temperature in the environment, and this higher temperature, that will be responsible for less energy in temperature regulation by the bird. So more energy will be available for gonadial activity. Now this more energy or higher temperature, it will make the gonads to become active, and now these activated gonads, they will produce sex hormones. Now these hormones, these are responsible for urge for migration to north for breeding. So because of all these changes, the bird will have an urge to migrate north for breeding. After reaching their northern homes, bird will breed and they will rear their young ones. And after mid-July, gonads will start regressing. Gonads will regress, and the old feathers, they will molt, they will shed down, and there will be fat accumulation in the body. Now the bird is ready for southward migration in mid-September. So birds will migrate back to the south after breeding and rearing their young ones. So how this happen? So see here in this picture, which is shown here in B. Okay. Now these dotted lines in every picture, this one, and this one, these are referring to the environmental changes, environmental cues, and these solid lines, solid arrows, they represent physiological responses in the body of the bird. So starting from here, during spring month, so there will be increase in photoperiod. Now because of increase in photoperiod, there will be more light, and this more light will be detected by eyes of bird and the pineal body of bird, which is present in the brain of bird. Now both of these structures, they will send stimulus to the brain, which will activate hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is a portion in brain which is a gland, and this is floor of diencephalon, if you remembered the structure of brain. So hypothalamus is floor of diencephalon, which is a part in forebrain. So this hypothalamus, it will secrete gonadotropin releasing hormone. Now this gonadotropin releasing hormone, it will activate anterior pituitary to secrete luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormones. And these two hormones, they will stimulate male and female birds, gonads of male and female birds, and the gonads in turn, in response to these hormones, they will secrete gonadial androgens, and they will again stimulate hypothalamus to secrete more gonadotropin releasing hormone. Also, anterior pituitary, it will also secrete prolactin. This prolactin, it will encourage the bird to invest more in reproduction. So it will again compel bird to reproduce. And also orexigenic neuropeptides are also secreted, and these will again have an effect on hypothalamus, and these neuropeptides, these are responsible for increasing feeding behavior in birds. So overall there will be preparation for migration flight. That means there will be a stimulated enhanced feeding because of these orexigenic neuropeptides. There will be flight muscle hypertrophy. That means strengthening of flight muscles, increase in size of flight muscles so that the bird can migrate, can fly up to longer hours. And erythropoiesis, that means blood cell formation, RBC formation. So these all events, they fall under the preparation of flight. So bird will prepare itself for flight when there will be spring onset. That means there will be increase in photoperiod. The next step is actual migration, which is stimulated by local conditions. That means resource availability, about climatic conditions, that means increased photoperiod, and social interaction of the birds. So again, this light, change in light or photoperiod, it will affect hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will secrete a CRF, which is a corticotropin releasing factor, which will again stimulate anterior pituitary, which will release ACTH, that is adrenocorticotrophic hormone, and which will stimulate adrenal cortex. And adrenal cortex, it will secrete corticosterone. Corticosterone is a hormone which is responsible for adaptive behavior of any organism or bird in this case, and these are very much helpful to cope up with environmental changes, environmental challenges and changes. So this corticosterone, it will further stimulate hypothalamus to secrete more CRF, and the whole circle will begin again, and this will cause actual migration by the bird. So bird will migrate to their breeding site or nesting site, that is they will migrate to north. And finally, after breeding and after rearing their young ones, there will be again second environmental trigger, which is autumn or winter photoperiod. So in their northern home, which is their nesting or breeding site, there will be change in autumn or winter photoperiod, which will again stimulate hypothalamus, and the bird will migrate again to southward. According to this whole theory, it was given by Donald Farner. According to Donald Farner, gonad development, molting, fat storage, it all depends on long days of summer or spring. So it is all, this process of migration, it is all stimulated by longer days during spring or summer. Next is guiding mechanism or wayfinding in bird navigation. How birds, they find their way, where they have to reach, and what are the various guiding mechanisms, which structures, which landmarks guide birds where they have to reach. Some birds, they migrate at night, that means they are nocturnal, while some migrate during daytime, that means those are diurnal. So how migrants find their way, this puzzle is solved by two scientists independently, Gustav Kramer and Franz Sauer. Primarily, it was found out that primarily the wayfinding by birds is visual. That means by sense of sight. Okay, so Kramer, the scientist, he has shown that diurnal birds which migrate during daytime, they orient themselves by position of sun. How sun moves through different day hours, position, the birds, they will orient themselves according to the position of sun. Whereas Sauer, he has shown that nocturnal birds, they get their direction by position of stars during night time. There are certain birds which will use landmarks during daytime for their migration, like rivers, position of rivers, certain valleys, oceans, deserts, coastlines. They will fly along the coastline. Some birds, they will fly along the mountain ranges. There are certain birds which will use Earth's magnetic field as inner ear of bird, which act as a balancer as well. So inner ear of bird that can detect these magnetic waves, and inner ear means membranous labyrinth, and this inner ear membranous labyrinth of bird, it can react to Coriolis effect. Now what is this Coriolis effect? And Coriolis effect is effect which is produced by rotation of Earth, and because of this effect, Coriolis effect, the air in the northern hemisphere that has a tendency to deflect objects towards right direction. That means clockwise direction. As you can see, Earth rotation is opposite, anti-clockwise, and so air has a tendency to deflect things to the right direction. That means clockwise direction, opposite direction, and it will be opposite in southern hemisphere. Objects will have a tendency to be deflected to the left in southern hemisphere. That means in anti-clockwise direction. So birds have to adjust according to this Coriolis effect so that they can reach to their desired destination. And similarly, pilots also have to adjust to this Coriolis effect so that they can reach up to their final destination, desired airport. So birds, they also have to adjust to this Coriolis effect. Then next, some birds use telluric currents. Now what are these? These are also known as earth current, and these are electric currents, very minor electric currents, which moves underground, just below the level of ground or through ocean. Some birds are known to use these telluric currents as their wayfinding. Some birds, they use experience. Birds learn by their experience, as some scientists believe so. But this is possible only if some elder members of the team fly with the young birds, and that doesn't happen always. So this point is slightly doubtful. The next is internal clock and compass. So every bird has an inbuilt internal clock and compass which help them to navigate during day and as well as night for their migration. And this navigation ability in birds is inherited instinct, which is proved by certain facts like young birds, they can make same directional orientation as that of their parents, and even after they would have been separated from their parents, even then they can navigate properly and they can migrate exactly to the similar location where their parents have migrated before. Also, young birds without any previous experiences of route and destination, they can complete their journey of migration with absolute accuracy, and that is a very fantastic thing. Then next are advantages of migration. As you know, migration in birds is an adaptive feature. That means birds will live in favorable environment all the time, as being away from high latitudes in winters, because in winters they will migrate to lower latitude towards south in northern hemisphere and vice versa in southern hemisphere. So bird will avoid cold stormy winter weather and shortage of food and water, scarcity of food and water because of freezing temperatures, and water will freeze in such during such time and temperatures, and short daylight hours which can hamper their food searching because there will be shorter light duration hours and birds will be unable to find their food during short day hours. And by returning to high latitudes in summer, as birds will migrate back, that means they will immigrate to their nesting zone during summers, bird will get suitable breeding grounds and they will be having abundant food, and they have long daylight hours for searching for food searching, so that will be beneficial for birds. So that is always advantageous for, so there is always advantages for birds for migration. The next is origin of migration. There are two famous theories about how birds have started migrating. So one is northern ancestral home theory and the second one is southern ancestral home theory. According to northern ancestral home theory, according to this theory, the permanent home of birds was northern hemisphere and they have migrated only during adverse condition to the southern hemisphere to the south. And according to second theory, that is southern ancestral home theory, according to this theory the permanent home of birds was this southern hemisphere and they have migrated to north. So let us discuss that in detail. So according to this northern ancestral home theory, this assumes that birds, they have spread it over northern hemisphere when it was warm and there has been abundant food throughout the year. Then there was onset of ice age, I guess in Pleistocene, and during ice age the birds, they were forced to shift southward for survival. Okay, so let me draw it for you. So bird from north, they have migrated towards south during ice age, and with the end of ice age they returned in spring back to north. So this is now a two-way movement. So this is migration of birds. Okay, first they have migrated southward from north. After the end of ice age, they had again moved back to the north, but they again have to shift southward in winter because of sharp establishment of winter and summer seasons, and this made migration a permanent habit in due course of time. So bird, they started doing this ritual every year, and this is how bird migration has started in northern hemisphere. Then we'll talk about the second theory, which is southern ancestral home theory. According to this theory, ancestral home of birds was southern hemisphere. Okay, so this is southern hemisphere, but due to overpopulation, some of the population of birds, they have been pushed to northern hemisphere. So some birds, they have migrated to northern hemisphere. After some days, the birds, they have returned to southern hemisphere, and this is again a two-way movement. So this is how bird migration had started according to southern ancestral home theory, and this process was repeated for many years, and as a result the birds, they have developed a habit of migration. So this is how these two theories, they have their own point of view about how origin of migration has been originated in birds. There is another theory which believes that ancestral home of birds was in tropics. Okay, so this is tropical region here. Let me draw it for you with yellow color. Okay, so this is equator, this dotted line, and these regions are termed as tropics. So according to one more theory alongside of these two, the birds, they were supposed to be inhabitants of tropics. That means they were residing here in tropics, and due to some of these, they have migrated towards north. Okay, so this is north direction, so they have migrated toward north because of overcrowding and competition during breeding season, and after breeding they return, and in due course of time it has become their permanent habit, and this is how migration of bird, it has started. So these are all about migration of birds, how they must have started migrating. So this is one thing we must say, that this is an hereditary instinct inside the birds, when to migrate and where to migrate. So further, moving further, then next are very short answer type questions. Name the bird with longest migration range. What is the maximum speed at which any bird is known to migrate? Which bird is known to fly continuously without landing on Earth for 10 months? Name the birds which fly at altitude of 5,100 meters. Where do the breeding grounds of bird lie in northern hemisphere? Which glands of brain are responsible for migration? Then are some short answer type questions. Explain briefly orientation mechanisms which are followed by birds during migration. Explain theories about origin of migration of birds. Which stimulates birds to migrate. Write a note on speed, altitude and accuracy of migration in birds. Explain the causes and advantages of bird migration. Thank you.